afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Penguin Island. We are about to give the penguins their final feed of the day.
Oh, look, they're all heading over there.
I know.
These are our South African black-footed penguins. It's a different species from the penguins inside. If you saw the little blue penguins, they are much smaller. They also have blue feathers, and they are native to Australia, New Zealand, and northern Tasmania. These particular penguins are native to South Africa and Namibia. Big difference between the two is that the little blue penguin species, that is a stable population over there. At one time they were considered endangered, but with all the conservation efforts the folks over there put into place, they were able to make it a stable population, whereas this particular species is critically endangered. Back in the 1930s, there were 1 million, get that, 1 million bonded pairs. All right, and then the number went down to around 25,000, and in 2024, in October, they determined that there were only 19,000 bonded pairs, not enough to sustain a wild population. So that is why we, along with a lot of other facilities throughout this country, are actually breeding them so that we can create new bloodlines. And so if anything catastrophic should happen over there and wipe out the population, we would actually be able to reintroduce them into their native habitat. We started exhibiting these penguins in the late 1990s. We had our first chick in 2001. Was Liberty. Since then, however, we have successfully hatched 53 chicks to this colony. So we've done very, very well with them. We have actually 2 pairs that were recognized as excellent breeding pairs by the Species Survival Plan. And we still have one of those pairs. That would be number 1 and 4. That would be Minnie and Kamikaze. Kamikaze is the cutie wearing the boots. Okay, he's number 4. Look on his right wing. And then number 1, Minnie, her band is on her left wing because she's a female. And that is one of them. The other one was actually Jack and Diane. Well, Diane is number 9. She is still with us. However, Jack did pass away. But we could serve it. They were responsible for 25 of our first 50 chicks, so that was pretty amazing. All right, I hear the lock opening the door over there. That means they're being fed at the end of the exhibit down here. Anywhere that you stand along the railing here, you should be able to see very, very well. When we do our feeds, we always have 2 biologists involved. One is going to be hand feeding our penguins, and the other is going to be keeping records. In other words, we want to know a lot of different things, what's going on in these feeds, things like how much each one of them eats, what kind of fish they ate, did they get their vitamin today, and are any of them eating more food than usual at their feed. And like I said earlier, they eat more than 2 times a day. I know over on that board it says 2 times. The 2 times that are on the board are the ones that we do for you. They are fed, however, probably three more in addition to this. Now, sometimes you'll notice that some of the penguins will not go over. Some of them wait until all the craziness settles down with the ones that went first. But you'll notice that we have some pudgy penguins that look like they're having a bad feather day. Those are the ones that are getting ready to molt. One of the things we look for is any of our penguins eating more food than usual. That is leading up to what they do once a year, and that is their yearly catastrophic molt. They molt all of their waterproof feathers at one time. And in doing so, because in their native habitat they cannot go into the water to forage for food without their waterproof feathers, they bulk up on food and live off of the bulked up food until they get their new feathers. Takes approximately 2 to 4 weeks. And even though we hand feed them here, when their body indicates that it's time to eat more, that's what they do. So that's what we're looking for. Are any of the penguins eating more food than usual? And you notice that when Barbara is handing out the fish is not wiggling in her hand because we do not give them live fish. Live fish can carry parasites. Obviously, that's not something that we want to pass along to our healthy birds. So we do a quick freeze and a thaw, and that eliminates the parasites. The only problem with that, though, is that it also kills off some of the vitamins and minerals. So we do give them a vitamin, and keep in mind that penguin, because they are birds, they don't chew their food, they swallow their food whole. So in doing so, you can put that vitamin right inside the fish, and they take the food down whole, and that includes their vitamin as well. They have little barbs in the back of their throat that do help them to push that food down into their body, and they do start to digest almost immediately. We give them things like herring and trout and squid. There was a particular fish from Canada called the capelin. If any of you fed the stingrays today, you get a little tray of fish that is half a capelin cut in half. So that gives you an idea also of the size that they eat. Now you'll also notice that they are very particular. Sometimes they like what's handed to them, sometimes they don't, which is another reason why we like to keep track of what kind of fish they eat, so that when we prepare the bucket for the feed, we have enough of everybody's favorite, so that that will be satisfying to all of our penguins. Now you will notice that the molting penguins are also wearing white bands on their wings. The other penguins are wearing black bands on their wings, and this is how we tell one penguin from another. Since you can't tell boys from girls by looking at penguins, you have to do DNA testing. We go inside a hatched egg, we get a sample, and once we know whether they're a boy or a girl, we know on which wing to put their bands. The boys will always wear them on the right, and the girls will always wear them on the left. They do all have names. You can see some of the names up here, like Pistachio and Jumbo. In fact, our 3 juveniles that hatched this breeding season, 59 is Duffy, 60 is Oscar, and 61 is Scrappy. They have some long names, some of them. We have Pistachio, we have Kamikaze. Try to get that on that little tiny black band that they're wearing on their wings. So we use a number system instead. The number system, because it is sequential, is easier for the person who is keeping track of who gets what. You can go down and find the number faster than you can look for those different names that we have. Now the life expectancy for these penguins in their native habitat, late teens into their early 20s. However, we have had a penguin that lived to be 35, passed only 2 days short of his 36th birthday. Number 1, Minnie, had a birthday in March, and she turned 30. There are penguins of this species in their early 40s. I believe it was up in Connecticut at the Mystic Aquarium. Oldest penguin on record was 45 years old, and that was in a Japanese facility. When you take the animals out of situations like they are having now in that part of the world and pretty much all around the world, the oceans are warming up. Unfortunately, food is becoming difficult to find. They're having to swim farther and farther out into the ocean to find food. This uses up an awful amount of energy, and if they're waiting to feed youngsters back in the nest, they may not have as much to bring back to them as they should. Obviously, predators are a problem. So if you look at the way penguins are colored, they're very dark on top and very light underneath, and it's called counter shading. What that helps is for them to disappear when they're out in the ocean foraging all day for food. They're out there with 4 particularly big predators. Does anybody have any ideas what kind of predators would like to have a penguin?
Orca.
Orca is one, yes, definitely. Yep. Seal, yes. Okay. We got two more. What's similar to a seal?
Shark. Sea lion.
Well, what do we also think of as the apex predator out in the ocean? Sharks, yes, okay. We're only missing one. You're doing good. This is very good. Nothing that's similar to a seal.
Turtles.
Sea lion.
That's it, you got it. Very good. I think she Googled it. But think about them out there foraging all day in the ocean for food, and you have to deal with sharks, seals, sea lions, and orcas. But if you can imagine them as they swim around in the water, you've got a predator swimming over top, the black of the feathers blends in with the bottom of the ocean. And then vice versa, you've got a seal swimming along underneath. They look up and see the white of their bellies, which actually blends in with the light from above, so it does help them to virtually disappear. But I have to say, all things considered, it's better for them to be in zoos and aquariums and not have to worry about that. I know a lot of people think it's terrible, but they're, they should be out there in their native habitat, and their native habitat could be very, very dangerous. Now we do have a penguin, and right now Kamikaze is up here. He is the one that is wearing booties. Penguins tend to get calluses on the bottom of their feet. We can take care of the calluses, we can excise them, we can put medicinal salve on them. The only problem is that when they come and start walking around and climbing and getting into the water and swimming, what happens to all that medicinal salve? It obviously is going to get washed off. So the only way to keep that from happening, somebody said, well, why don't we measure their feet and make booties? And everybody kind of giggled a little bit at that. But I'll tell you, it has been the world, especially Kamikaze, they're made of neoprene. So he can actually go into the water and swim, and he can walk with them and climb with them. He has no problems with that. And he's over here at the ready, as always. He has that stance at all times. Yeah. So, yeah, it did work. Good job. A lot of the things that we could do in zoos and aquariums is very hard.